Okay, so welcome to today's workshop. We have one of our amazing instructors, industry expert on here who's going to be leading, Mr. Nick. And so I will just go over a short and sweet who we are, and then pass it on to Nick to begin the workshop. So my name is Maritza Andre, and I am the VP of Admissions here at Workforce Institute. Workforce Institute, we are a pioneer in education, career transformation, specializing in today's most high-in-demand skills, leading source for training, staffing, and career transitions. We foster a flourishing community of professionals pursuing careers they love. Workforce Institute, in lieu of our university partners, we offer UI UX design and digital marketing. We are partnered with 5 different universities, some brands you may recognize: Florida Atlantic University, Colorado State University Pueblo, Northeastern Illinois University, Hofstra University, and Santa Clara University. So what's really great is we offer the UI UX design program, and once a student graduates, they get that certificate in the university that they enroll in. Here's a little intro of our team. So if you were to ever proceed with an enrollment process, here's a little overview of who you may get the opportunity to interact and work with. We also have our career and student services. And here's just a short and sweet. If you love UI UX design, you have a great experience at today's workshop, and you decide this is something you want to pursue, the way that it works is you get to meet with one of our advisors, learn more about UI UX design. You get to pick your start date and get enrolled. You get to be a part of our new student orientation. And once you graduate, you get to complete a portfolio, get a certificate, and be ready to apply for jobs. We offer career services for up to 12 months post-graduation, where we will work with you until you find a job. And so that's a little overview. I always love to share a student testimonial of what students think about our programs. And here are some recent graduates. And so with that being said, it's short and sweet. I will be, throughout the program, dropping in a link that I will have everybody fill out. And it's so that you can get a certificate for attending today's workshop, and as well a link to schedule an appointment if you have more questions about UI UX design. So with that being said, Nick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maritza. Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to be sharing a presentation about UX design, introducing myself a little bit. Just give me one moment while I share my screen. Okay. So a little bit of an introduction to UX design. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the basics of UX design and the software development process involved in UX design. In the next few slides that we cover, I'm going to cover an introduction of myself. We're going to talk about the definition of UX design and what it involves. We're also going to talk about the importance of UX design and the software development process and how UX design is involved in that. And then we're going to go into the UX design process and break it down into 5 different components, which is research and analysis, ideation and conceptualization, design and prototyping, testing and validation, and deployment and future maintenance. So a little bit about me. My name is Nick, and I am located in Canada, on the west coast of Canada. I'm a UX designer, and I also teach UX design as well. I manage teams of UX designer. I've done it for a number of years now, and I find it to be a very rewarding career opportunity. I'm really happy that I moved into UX design because it allows me to solve problems that affects a large number of people, and it also allows me to have a creative outlet, which I feel is also very important as well. So a little bit about the definition of UX design. So this is the process of designing and optimizing experience for digital products and digital interfaces with user-centered focus. So this means understanding the needs of the user, not just building something that you think would be a good idea. It involves actually doing research and looking into what the user needs, not over designing it, coming up with the minimum amount of features and functions that the user needs to accomplish their task for whatever that may be. And UX design, it covers apps, it covers websites, but UX design is involved in a large number of products, including anything from a microwave to a console in your car, a touch panel in your car, to an ATM teller machine. They all have an experience that the user goes through when they interact with that product. And basically UX design involves designing that interaction. So here's an example of a website. This website might, not have the best UX design. I'm going to point out a few things. It looks a little bit chaotic. We don't see a lot of alignment. One thing that we notice here is the color of the text is very similar to the color of the background, and that kind of makes it less accessible, especially for people that have vision issues or anything like that. Accessibility is an important part of UX design as well. So making sure that the design is usable by a large audience, even those that have less vision or whatnot. And we're going to talk about accessibility a bit more, but I wanted to show this as an example because this is a great example to understand why UX design is really important. So UX design takes a holistic approach. It considers all aspects of the user experience, including functionality, usability, accessibility, and emotion. It incorporates the research that you've gathered from connecting with the potential users to understand their needs and their behaviors and design something that works for them. UX design also includes user testing. This is basically when you come up with a concept, you're able to put that together in a prototype and then put that in front of your users and give them a task and allow them to complete the task while observing them to understand if it is something that's working for them before it goes into the development cycle. We'll go into that cycle a little bit more soon. But basically, yeah, user testing will help you validate the design decisions that you're making based on the research that you're coming up with. Here's another example. As you can see from the previous website, this one is a bit of an improvement. Text is easier to read, the layout's a little bit better. As we go on, I'm going to show you some more examples, and you'll see improvements through each example that I show. So UX design is an iterative process. That means that it's constant changing. It's never done. You're constantly looking for feedback. There's, rarely a time when you're working for an organization and they're managing an app or a website or a digital product where everything is complete and it's done. There's always a backlog of improvements that can be made. And some of those improvements can come from customer feedback. Some of those improvements can come from user testing sessions that you initiate in order to learn more about your users and tailor the product to them. One example, larger companies like this, I'm sure you're all familiar with this company. They have a whole team designed for the user experience because it affects their bottom line. And obviously, the company is trying to make money, so they want to have the user experience as best as they can. So they're investing in design in order to improve the user experience. And that's where job opportunities come in because people that are willing to help support their mission to grow their company are able to work with them and help solve complex user problems and contribute. So good UX design results in a positive user experience. Higher levels of user satisfaction can be seen with this and engagement with the product. Typically, users are more inclined to come back and use a product again if they had a good experience the first time, or they're also more inclined to tell their friends and family of the good experience that they had. A well-designed interface makes it easy for users to navigate and interact with the product, again, leading to higher customer adoption. Also, by providing a seamless and intuitive user experience, UX design helps to retain users and keep them coming back as well. Here's another example of UX design. This is an app called Duolingo to help you learn language. So gamification is another interesting thing with UX design, and that's something that this app uses. Basically, gamification creates a game out of something that might not be fun and exciting in order to gain people's attention and keep them interested in the whatever they're trying to do. In this case, learn a new language. So you can see how adding this little taskbar, the ability to add characters and get rewards based on when you're learning, all help the user feel like they're having a fun time as they're working through the learning experience. So the importance of UX design is because good UX design provides opportunities for users to provide feedback and contribute to the product's improvement. By catching and fixing user experience issues early in the development cycle, UX designers can save time and resources in the long run by avoiding costly rework. So if you were to come up with an idea and send it to development and put it out into the market, and you discovered that it wasn't a great idea, there was some mistakes in it and some problems, and you had to make some changes, and then it goes back to the UX designer to be changed, it would have to go into the development cycle again in order to be built. So doing testing with prototypes in the early stage of the UX design process saves the company money in the long run. And then you can go into development with a product that is user ready. Not to say that it will be perfect, but you'll have more of the problems ironed out by doing testing in the UX phase. Another good example of UX design is Airbnb. They have a large UX team, and they put a lot of research and effort into UX design. And you can see the product that they've come up with as well. I'm sure many of you have used this before or heard of it. If not, it's an interesting one that you could check out for some user experience patterns on their website as well. And a good example of what's happening here is they're giving a minimalistic experience with giving the user everything that they need to know in order to find a property, book a property, and do everything that they need to do. So a well-designed product conveys a level of professionalism and attention to detail that builds trust and credibility with users. So it can be like long-standing trust that will keep users coming back. Also, it improves user satisfaction, adoption from new users, and retention of existing customers. It can also impact a company's bottom line, which is what most companies are after at the end of the day, and increase their revenue and also reduce the development costs by doing more testing in the UX process. So I'm going to now introduce the UX design process. So there's 5 different steps in the UX design process, as we can see here. So the first step is research. So this is where we gather data and insights about users that helps us inform the design of these products. So the goal here is to create a positive user experience with this knowledge that we're gaining from the research. After we're complete with research, we go into ideation. So this is where we generate ideas for solving the user's needs, and we create a compelling user experience through brainstorming. In this phase, we're often not even designing digitally, we're possibly doing some sketching, and then maybe even linking those sketches together into a prototype. And then in the next phase, which is the design phase, this is where we create the digital version of our ideas that we've come up with. So they can be interactive designs that are linked together just to seem like a real product. And then you can build them into prototypes and also move into high fidelity designs as well, with colors and images and whatnot. After we go through the design phase, we move into testing. So before we build it, we want to test it. So we want to evaluate the designs. We want to connect with our user groups. There's many different types of testing. A/B testing is an example where you have two different versions of a idea and you provide those to the users and say which one is better, or get them to do a task with two different versions of an app and see which one is easier for them, which one they don't get stuck. Heuristic evaluations is another example, and usability testing, like we briefly touched on. And I'm going to go into a little bit more in depth on each one of these categories after this slide. So also then the last step is deployment. So this is where you have everything ready. This is also an iterative process here, testing. So you might get some information here that will lead you back to ideation, where you will make some changes and then go back to design and then come back to testing. So it's not a straight line approach. As you can see here, you may loop around back to different portions of the process in order to get things right before you move into the final stage, which is deployment. And this is where you're connecting with the developers. You're presenting them your final designs, telling them that this is what you want to have built to go out to the public. And then of a e-commerce store, and this is an e-commerce store that has a UX team as well. They put a lot of time and effort into researching with their customers in order to come up with a product that gives a positive user experience and allows the users to do what they're intended to do on the site, is purchase a product. And that could involve giving them similar recommended products, helping them find products that are available in their country, in their currency, that have shipping in their area. There's a number of different things, and this company is constantly getting feedback from user testing sessions from existing users and implementing that into their storefront in order to improve the bottom line. So the different types of research involve, there's a lot of different types of research that you can do, but some of the main ones that you would do as a UX designer involve surveys. So this is where you would put together a questionnaire and send this out to your customers, say in an email or something like that. And those results would help you with designing a new feature or improving the product. Interviews. So these could be one-on-one interviews conducted either in person or through Zoom. Typically, these involve a script. And if you're on a UX team and you're doing an interview process, you're probably going to come up with the interview questions together as a team. So everybody's asking the same questions. And then you'll each interview 5 to 10 users, collect that information and analyze that data in order to come up with some ideas to improve the product. Focus groups. This is another option as well. Focus groups can be a little bit easier to manage than interviews because they're less time consuming. You basically gather people together in a group and people can bang their ideas off one another, and you can gain a lot of information from that as well. The last one for research is user testing. So this involves observing users as they complete tasks or interact with a prototype to identify some usability issues that you might see. So the different types of research fall into these different categories. So we have attitudinal research and behavioral research, also quantitative research and qualitative. So basically, qualitative means it's a higher quality. So this is like a one-on-one interview or a one-on-one usability test. Quantitative means you're getting a higher number of research. So like more surveys, but basically the quality may be less because you didn't have that one-on-one interaction. So this is just a little graph that shows you the examples. It's always a decision that you have to make is how you're going to do the research.
Hey, Nick, also, I just dropped in the chat if anybody has questions to ask away as you're sharing all this amazing information.
Yep, absolutely. If there's anything that you don't understand or want me to stop, feel free to ask any questions. Also, we'll have some time afterwards as well to go into a little bit deeper to some things. If you have anything that I didn't cover or go through, we can go into that as well. So when you're organizing your research, this is an example of what that could look like. You basically can jot down notes and group them together. If you've looked into research UX design a little bit, this is probably a common image that you'll see. Maybe you'll also see a bunch of people standing around a whiteboard with some post-it notes. This is basically a digital version of that. And it's called affinity mapping, and it basically helps you analyze all that data in order to make design decisions. So now you've done your research, you've found out what you need to design for your users. The next stage is ideation. So this is where it gets a little bit more fun. So this is where we start generating new ideas. And we're not even going onto the computer yet. The quickest way to do this is with a paper and pen. There is also digital tools that you can do this with as well. But this is one example of how you can quickly do that. So you come up with an idea. The best thing to do would be to just draw it out and sketch it out what it would look like. Putting that all out there will help you, come up with things. You want to go really quick. It's not about perfection. Just basically drawing some shapes. Instead of putting text, you just put squiggly lines like this, just to get a general idea of how the product would work. Next, another form of ideation is called Crazy Eights, and this is something that I always teach new students as well, and something that I use myself quite often. It can be done in like 4 simple steps like this. So gathering some information and notes, coming up with some ideas, some doodles and sketches, and then you fold the page into fold it twice over to make 8 different sections, and you come up with 8 different ideas, and you do this very rapidly. It's called Crazy Eights, and basically you can dedicate 1 minute to each block. And the idea is not to focus on perfection, not to focus on straight lines or anything like that at all. It's just to get down your ideas very quickly, so you're not stuck in the process of trying to make it perfect. That does come later. And then once you have your Crazy 8 ideas down, then you can put it into a solution sketch, and that might involve multiple screens. So this is where you take a little bit longer and link the screens together. So when you're on this screen and you click this button, it's going to go here. That could be done like through a shopping cart example, like we were looking at on Amazon. When a user clicks purchase, then it goes to the next step. I just had a question. Are there tools available to perform each step of UX design, or are they all performed manually? There is many different tools for performing UX design tasks. Basically, there's design tools. There's tools that will allow you to do things such as post-it work online as well, which can be great for when you're working in teams. There's so many new tools, and there's new tools coming out all the time that can help you become a UX designer as well. So lots of support there. And another thing that I wanted to mention as well is that UX designers are probably one of the most helpful communities out there. If you're thinking about going into UX design, there's lots of different mentors and people that are willing to offer their time for free to guide you and help you get into the industry. It's very welcoming in that sense.
Okay.
Yep. Did somebody have a question? Okay, so once you do your sketching, prototyping, the next stage after sketching is creating some digital wireframes. So this is moving one step up into a design app called maybe Figma or Sketch. We'll talk about those a little bit more as well, because these are some of the tools that you primarily use as a UX designer. But you would go into a design tool like that, and then you would build a prototype like this. So this is where you can start kind of focusing on a little bit more of the aesthetics of the app. You don't have to have the full content in there yet, and you don't have to have color in there yet, but you want to get the layout. And then linking these screens together will allow you to even start doing testing at this phase as well, where you can click on a square, and then it goes to this screen, and then click on something, and it goes to this screen. And Figma, one of the primary design tools that designers use these days, will allow you to link all those screens together. So now we've done all the ideation, we've come up with some ideas. The design phase is where we create the look and feel of the product. So if you are working for an existing company, they may have existing colors that they work with, typography or graphics as well. The idea color creates a lot of emotion, so it's important to be very familiar with your brand and what you're working with and how color can affect that. If you're starting a new product, you should do some research into that and look into what colors might be favorable to your audience. If it's an existing product, then you're probably going to have some type of design system that you'll stay within as you're designing new features and new products, so it looks similar, so it looks like it's coming from that same brand. Here is an example of a banking app, and banking is not the most exciting thing, but they made it a little bit more fun and exciting by using some bright, colorful colors, and it makes it a little bit more sellable. So interaction design. So this is where we connect the screens together. So these are wireframes like we've shown before, and you can see that these are examples of what goes where. So this is like, if you click here, it's going to go to this screen to this screen. And it can be, as you're working on a big project or working through things, it can be a big maze of screens. So lots of work, lots of fun. And this basically involves, mapping out the process of how the user would navigate through your app. As I mentioned before, the design phase, design process is iterative. It means that it can be refined and evolved over time based on feedback and user testing. So we can do design work, we can prototype it, we can check it with the users, then we might go back and do some more design work. So it's always evolving. So as I mentioned before about tools, there's a lot of different tools out there. One tool that you should check out, whether even if you want to become a UX designer or not, it's just a fun tool that everybody can use. It's called Figma. It's basically a collaborative web application. That means that you can work together with multiple people to design things. And yeah, you can start from basic shapes to very complex high fidelity drawings. So you can check out Figma at figma.com, sign up for a free account. You can start designing right away, right in your web browser, or you can also download the application to your computer as well. And it's available for Windows and Mac. So definitely check out Figma. Once you do some design work in Figma, you have a prototype together. Next is usability testing. So this involves in observing a user as they interact with a product. So an example of that can be seen right here. You would have your prototype on the computer, you'd provide it to a user, and you would sit there and observe them and take some notes and just watch them. You don't want to help them, you want to give them a task. If it was a banking app, you would say, create a new account and add some money to it. And then you just let them go, let them do their thing and see where they get stuck. If they have a problem transferring money, then you know that there's a problem with the design of that function and feature, and then you can iterate on that. Accessibility, like we mentioned a little bit with the coloring, involves making sure that your design is accessible to a wide variety of people, including disabilities. That could include visual, auditory, and motor impairments. Depending on your audience, you may have to tailor the function of your app to specialize in that demographic of people. If not, you want to make it widely accessible as possible using best practices. And there is guidelines and practices for that. It's a whole section of UX design that you can go in and specialize on as well. Next is the last step. This is deployment. So this is where you're going to build your design. If you're, say, a freelancer or something like that, maybe you want to build it yourself, or even if you just want to make your own portfolio, which is something that I'm going to talk about a little bit more as well. A portfolio is basically a website showing your design process, your design work, and it's what employers would use to evaluate your work when they're hiring you. These are two examples of website builders that easily allow you to build websites where you could build a portfolio and show some of your design work process. Or you could build a website for a client or something like that if you're a freelance UX designer. Also, the other option is WordPress. It's a little bit more complex. It's good to have a little bit of knowledge about HTML and CSS here. They have lots of templates as well, so this is also another web builder. If you're not using a online web builder, you can also connect with a developer, and if you're building an app, you can have them build the app that you've designed, or they can directly code the website as well. So that's all that I have for this presentation. I think I just dumped a lot of information onto you guys. So yeah, I wanted to give it a minute and see if there's any questions. I see one in the chat here. For performing the research step, also we use tools. Yes, in the research step, there's many different tools that you could use. Some of the most basic tools that you would start with is maybe Google Forms or Typeform or something like that. So you would basically come up with your questions, and then you would put them into a tool like Google Forms, and then you would send out the Google Forms to your users, and then you would have that information collected in the database of the form. Then you would analyze that data, and tools that you could use for that include Miro or Mural as well. Those tools will allow you to synthesize that data. So you'll sift through it, maybe copy some important things that stand out to you, and put it on post-it notes and organize that information in order to gain some key insights and key features of what you think you will need to take forward into the iteration, into the ideation phase of design. Yeah, any other questions about UX design, the design process, research? Does anybody have any experience with any kind of design, like graphic design or anything like that, that you've taken so far? I'm going to also take you guys through, I just started to mention briefly about what a portfolio website is. So basically, when you're a UX designer and you're working on these problems and you're going through the design process, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be saving all that information. And then you're going to want to be able to put that information together to share with an employer. So you're going to want to make a website. Maybe you're going to want to code it yourself. You might want to use WordPress or like Wix or Squarespace or something like that. And on your website, you're going to want to have a brief bio about yourself. If you're just moving into the UX design world, it's great to tie in your previous experience that you've had. And UX design, as you know from what we've gone through so far, it encompasses a wide variety of skills. So chances are, no matter what your background that you're coming from, there's something related to UX design that you can tie into to your future process. So it's important to have, like a good little bio about yourself, what made you interested in moving into the UX design process, and then showing some of your projects. So this is an example of a portfolio website. This is actually my portfolio website, and I'm going to show you a project so I can show you how you would display one of your projects and present it to say a potential employer. So it's good to start out with an introduction in your portfolio website. Give it a little personal touch. Good to have some like personal photos about you and talk about your background a little bit. It's great if they can like learn more about you by reading a little bit about your background, seeing some photos and stuff of what makes you tick. A lot of times when a company is looking to hire you, they're going to want to know who you are as a person, whether you'd be a good fit for the team as well. And then in your website, you're also going to want to show your case studies. So these are some projects that you worked on. And this is going to be examples of where you applied research, ideation, design, and implementation. So it's good to have a couple of different case studies. In the program that we offer, you'll be going through you'll have the opportunity to create two different projects that you could use as your first case studies to build your portfolio in order to get a UX role if that's something that you're interested in. So I'm going to take you through a case study that I put together for a company called Hoot Reading. This is a company that I worked for. They're basically an ed tech startup, and the product that they create is a digital solution for children's literacy. So they help emerging readers become better readers, and they help struggling readers learn how to read so they can succeed in school. So basically for Hoot Reading, I was the lead UX designer. So I was the leader of a team of designers that was involved in creating multiple digital products for this company. Some of the digital products that I was leading projects for was their website. This is the first place that most of the people that interact with the company come to learn about the company and find answers to some of their questions of what they may have about this company. The other product is the reading app. So this is kind of the main focus of the company, is this digital app. And this digital app is a reader app that connects teachers with students over a Zoom call in their customized app with built-in books. So you can flip through a book together, one-on-one, and a teacher can guide the student through the reading process. So it also shows their scheduled lessons, a big library of books. They can save books, see when their next upcoming lesson is, schedule lessons, all that kind of stuff. And the other part of this company that I did designs for is the admin portal. So this is an internal tool that the staff that work in the company use to manage the bookings of the teachers. This is where they process like the payments, how the teachers get paid for using the app, how lessons are booked, rescheduled, availability for teachers, notes about the lessons. This is basically the go-to. And it's important to have good UX design for this as well, because the people that work for this company are working with this app all day long. Sometimes they're on the phone. Sometimes it can be kind of very high stress. So they need to have a functional, easy to use platform that will help them do their job. So as you can see, these all have very different user groups. This is a wide variety of people, mostly parents, teachers. This is students and teachers. This is internal staff. So researching for these products involves very different groups of people that you need to connect with in order to find out what their needs are for these platforms. So I'm going to take you through now the case study, and we're going to look at some solutions to problems for the customer website and the Hoot Reading app. So the customer website is the primary touch point, as I said. It's basically where people come to learn about Hoot or try and figure out if it's a good solution for them. So first thing we needed to do is identify the target users. So the target users for this website are parents, also teachers, and say school districts as well. So parents want to come there to learn how this can be a good fit for their child. Some of their pain points might be they have a child that's struggling with reading, so that's why they're looking into this solution. And all these things to figure out these personas are gathered through research. So finding out who these people are helps identify these personas, and putting this persona together helps keep the team focused on what the needs and the goals of these variation of users are for this product. So these are fictional characters that are made up based on the research. The reason why these can be shared publicly is because they're not a representation of any real information, but they're somewhat of a summary of the research that we've done for these user groups. So teachers, they can want to come to the website because maybe they want to be a part-time teacher, they want to earn some extra income on the side, maybe they're just subbing and they want to learn more. So that's why they're a customer. And school districts, maybe they have a lot of struggling students and they want to invest in this opportunity for their students as well. So that's the target user groups that we're designing for. Once we have our target user groups together, we want to start coming up with some concepts. So in order to do this product, some concepts were proposed. This is before the research was done, just to get stakeholders on board with the idea of redesigning the website. Before this website redesign was done, there was a website that was not really serving the users. There was a lot of problems. So this was a concept that was put together to show how a new website would look, could look. Then once we did the research, we started coming up with some grayscale wireframes to see what the layout of the content would look like, what we needed to include on each page in order to solve these pain points for each user. And then the final design was this high fidelity mockup, which was also tested with users as well, including the sign up portion for the free lesson plan sign up, because that was a problem that on the old website users were having problems with. They were getting stuck in the form. There was a lot of information. It wasn't split up into multiple screens with steps, so it wasn't easy. So user testing was done with that in order to make sure that it was acceptable for users. One thing that it's important to consider is the flow of how the website is going to look. And this task flow that we're looking at here, this is a UX design artifact. So this is something that you would do as a UX designer. This is made in FigJam, which is a part of Figma that allows you to make maps like this, which is something that you could learn more of and try it yourself. But basically what we do in this tool is we map out the experience of where the user would go. So they would enter their email address. Do they already have an account? Yes. Do they need to create a new account? Do they have a child associated with their account? Do they need to add a child? Or did they forget their password? Did they need to reset their password? So basically all these steps outlines how the user interacts with that flow of signing up for a lesson. So Important thing to have mapped out as a UX designer, because it basically shows how the user flows through the digital product. And then some examples of what that flow would look like. So the user would click try a free lesson up here. They would get prompted to enter some information. As you can see here, they have a taskbar that shows them very easily what step they are in the process. So they know how much more steps they have to go through, and they only have a small amount of information on the screen in order not to overwhelm them. And you can see here, you're moving through the steps as well. So that was tested with users in order to ensure that it was functioning and it was user friendly. And then once we made some changes with that and it was functional and friendly, then it went into development phase where it could be published live. So next, we're going to move on to the Hoot Reading app. So this, as I said before in the introduction, this is where students and teachers are connected through the app. And the app has 3 different types of users: teachers, students, and parents also have access to this app as well, because they may need to check the scheduling of the lessons, or they might just want to browse the library. So 3 different user types for this app, with the primary users being teachers and students. The students don't have a high amount of features that they need to do. Mostly they just need to log on and read the book with the teacher. But the teachers, they have a lot of features that they need to do, because they need to show their availability, log on and read with the student. They'll also need to make lesson notes, review previous lesson notes so they can be familiar with the student that they're hopping on a lesson with. Do we have a question? So it's important whenever you're designing for kids. Kids is, they're a unique audience. Some of them have all different types of skills when it comes to UX design. So for me, when I joined this company, I had not designed kids apps before. I had designed a lot of different various apps, even for seniors, all different types of people, but just not children. So it was important to get familiar with my audience that I was designing for. So that involved doing some design research on what the difference between kids are. So we cater to children between the ages of 6 years and 11 years old. And looking a little bit deeper into what the abilities of children are, they're broken down into 3 different groups. So this was a type of research that I needed to do on my own in order to be more informed about the design that I was doing. So the abilities that these children have vary between 6 years, 7 to 9 years, 9 to 11 years old. So this age group here, 9 to 11, can be more experts at the touch screen. They can swipe, scroll. They can also even read a little bit as well. So pictures are not important, but this age group back here, they rely more on pictures and icons, and sometimes are not the best at dragging and dropping things and stuff like that. So it's important to know the difference, especially when you're creating a product that caters to a variety of groups. Bright, vivid colors, also important. You might not be designing with bright, vivid colors if you're designing for the general population, but kids, that attracts their attention, it keeps them interested. And that's basically the goal, is you want the kids to be enjoying themselves and having fun, so they'll want to come back and continue to learn how to read. So emotions are attached to color as well. It's important to get familiar with that. As a UX designer, you basically go in depth and learn a lot of different things about color and design that will help you make better informed design decisions. One thing I learned about kids is they like to be in a happy mood. They will be encouraged to be in a happy mood with characters and smiling faces. Navigation and copy should be large, readable, also with imagery, so they can navigate without reading if they can't. And then these are some recommendations that I made, which mostly involve like large buttons, larger text, easily visible text, and then user testing. Might not be easy to test with kids, but it's important to do some rather than none in order to make sure that you have some feedback from your kids. So again, a persona we have here for kids. One method that I used for research that we didn't mention before is, and here's an example of a tool that you could use for research, is Open Replay. So this is a tool that allows us to record sessions of the app and replay those sessions and see where people may have had problems. So it records like stress clicks, like where people are clicking multiple times in one area, where they look like they're lost, and it can help give you some insights in order to inform your design decisions. Some examples of things that I found using that app to learn more was opening a book. So this was the original app. The student would click on the book and then they would keep clicking on the book because they would expect the book to open. But really, when you click on the book, this would appear down here and you would have to click here. So some students didn't realize that. My solution to that with this wireframe was to click on a book, turn it around, flip it around with the information, and then the button was right there so they could click again and open the book. And with user testing, it turned out to be very successful. Lessons, same thing. Sometimes students didn't know to join a lesson. The lesson button was not activated or moving. So there was a design change made with that as well to appear at the top here, and also pulse. So it would gain the attention of the children. And then improved navigation. This was not easy. So a sidebar navigation was another change as well. So as we went through in the introduction to UX, we have here the process. This is an example of a real world process that I went through to make this this product. So we have here some sketching, digital wireframe, and then a high fidelity prototype. And you can see how it merged into an idea on paper into a real world product that people are using. And then here's some more in-depth examples of how much work it was to create all this. There's lots of back and forth and iteration and testing. And it's also a really fun process as well because you're solving problems and you're being creative and coming up with solutions. So here was the final outcome of the high fidelity of a couple of those screens that were shown here. And then this was the teacher profile. So very similar to the student profile. This one looks, things are a lot bigger. This one here, we have, a lot more features built into it. It's targeted more towards adults, so we don't have to have such big buttons. And we have a lot more content here because teachers are required to have a lot more information within the app. So yeah, that's basically what an example of a case study could look like in your portfolio. Does anybody have any questions on that? How does all this information sit with everybody? Is it a lot to take in? I know I've just been talking for almost an hour now, sharing basically everything that I do in UX design. How does that make you feel? Yeah, is it exciting? Is it overwhelming? I'd love to have some feedback.
It was great information. Thank you. I think it was a really helpful and a lot of great insights on just kind of the back work with the user testing.
Cool. Thank you so much for the feedback. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that it was clear and concise. I hope I answered all your questions.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. I couldn't figure out how to talk. I had technology hiccups. Will this be replayed or archived, or can I have it sent to my email to watch tomorrow?
Absolutely. So what I'll do right now, if you guys have not seen it, I'm dropping a link and you just fill out this link, put your first and last name and your email address, and you'll get a recording and a certificate tomorrow, so that you can re-watch and get all of the information.
Okay, I'm gonna be I pushed something and that link disappeared, so I don't know how to reply.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I will message you, or what's your first and last name? Because we can probably find you and
Sure,
send it to you. What's your first and last
sure.
name?
First name is Graham, Graham, Graham. Hedrick, Hedrick.
Perfect.
Do you see me?
I'm gonna look it up, but at least with your name, we'll be able to see. And then in the meantime, if everybody can just fill out the link I dropped, that way you do get the link to the video. You get all the information that we have to share.
Cool. Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. If you do have any other questions, feel free. If it's something that you're thinking about going into, it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to pursue a career as a UX designer. It's very high in demand, and there's the demand for UX designers is only going to increase as well, as the general population have higher and higher demand for better quality products, better quality, digital solutions. So you can see if you look at websites and apps and stuff like that from 10 years ago to today, there's a big change, and it's only going to continue to improve as well. So it's definitely a future-proof career move.
Nick,
Yep.
can I talk to you outside or offline or after everybody else closes out? Because I've got a couple kind of personal questions that I need your guidance on.
Sure. Yep, we can definitely, Maritza maybe can share contact.
Sure, either two of you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In the meantime, does anybody else have any other questions?
I have question regarding the portfolio. So regarding portfolio, how many hours or how many days portfolio, in how many days we need to finish the portfolio, or how many portfolios we will be going to explore and we will made, and in teams we will made, or individually it would be. Please let me know more about this.
Yeah, basically the portfolio is it's kind of like your resume. So it's similar to a resume for a normal job, but it's a UX designer's resume in a way. So it's something that's you're gonna work on and change as you move through your career as a UX designer. Basically, in the program that we offer, you'll be doing 2 projects that you can add to your portfolio. So it all depends on what your skills and ability are at putting together a website. If you just want to do something quick and easy with the solutions like Wix or Squarespace, you can gather together all the things that you worked on in the UX program and put them into a website fairly quickly. But it's something that's ever growing and ever evolving and changing. So there's no really like set time or amount that you can put into your portfolio. But the good thing is that there's a lot of examples that we can go over in the program. I generally I lead the program as an instructor as well. So I generally take students through multiple different examples of portfolios and how to build portfolios and options of how to do that as well.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a quick question, again with the portfolio. I just wanted to see, like, for those who are interested in taking this boot camp, at like what point during the 24 weeks do you start creating it? Is it like right away or towards the end once, you have done most of the lessons, or midway?
Yeah, typically we encourage the students to start building their portfolio as early as possible. It could be maybe midway through the program once you have your first project done, because then you have something to add to your portfolio. So if you're feeling good about the program and you're like caught up in your work, midway through the program is a great time to start working on your portfolio. It is a requirement in order to start applying for jobs to have that portfolio complete. So as long as it's done, you know, by the time that you're finished the program, that can be helpful. Everybody's learning at a different pace, and that's the great thing about this program, because everybody can, you know, come together and learn from one another at a different pace. So if you're, you know, if you wanted to focus more on doing your UX projects and putting more time into that, you could focus more on that, and you could even do your portfolio after the program. But the only thing is that in order to work with the career services team and to you know, connect with employers, you need to have the portfolio completed. So as long as if you have the time to work through it through the program, it's a great opportunity to, you know, get review and feedback from your peers in the program and myself as well. But also if it's not possible, you want to focus more on your projects, then you can also do it after the program as well.
Thank you.
Great. Any more questions? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.